All right, let's dive into something we all grapple with, that constant tug of war between making more money and having more free time. It feels super personal, right? But what if I told you it's actually a classic problem we can break down and maybe even solve?
So let's just get right to it. If you had to pick one, right this second, what would it be? More cash in your pocket or more free time? And this isn't just some abstract thought experiment. We're actually making this choice in big and small ways every single day.
Well, it turns out this dilemma, it has a name. It's a core idea in economics called scarcity. And it's really simple when you think about it. We have unlimited wants. We want all the things. But we live in a world with limited resources. And because of that, we're forced to choose. We have to make trade-offs.
Okay, so theory is great, but to really get a grip on this, let's make it concrete. We're going to walk through a real-world example and use a simple model to see how someone actually finds their perfect balance. So let's meet our guy, Kareem. His situation is probably going to sound pretty familiar. He'd love more income to spend, but he also really values his free time. And that's the classic problem, isn't it? He can't max out both at the same time. To make this real, we'll give him a number to work with. His wage is a steady 30 euros per hour. That's the main constraint he's dealing with.
So how in the world does he figure out his best choice? Well, the very first step is to just map out his reality. What are all the possible combinations of income and free time that are actually on the table for him? And to do that, we're going to use a really powerful tool.
This line you're seeing is called the feasible frontier. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like Kareem's menu of possibilities. Seriously, every single point on this line is a combo of free time and income he could actually choose. If he picks 24 hours of free time, well, his income is zero. Makes sense. If he works as much as possible, his income is maxed out. Everything he can actually do lies somewhere on that line.
But here's what's so powerful about this visual. Look at the space around the line. Any point above it, like C, is just impossible. Given his wage, he simply can't get there. And any point below it, like D, well, that's just inefficient. He'd be leaving money or time or both on the table. So that frontier isn't just a line. It represents the absolute best he can possibly do.
Now, the slope of this line has a bit of a fancy name, the marginal rate of transformation, or MRT for short. But all that means is it's the trade-off reality forces on him. For every 1 hour of free time he gives up, it transforms into exactly 30 euros of income. It's a hard fixed rate.
Okay, so we've mapped out what's possible. That's the reality check. But that's only half the story, right? To find the absolute best choice, now we need to map out what he actually wants. We need a map of his personal preferences.
And this is how we do it. These are called indifference curves. The best way to think of them is like the contour lines on a hiking map. But instead of showing altitude, they show levels of happiness, or what economists call utility. Any point on the same curve makes Kareem equally happy. And of course, the goal is to get to the highest curve possible. Let's just look at the raw numbers for one curve to see how it works. Kareem would be just as happy with combination A, that's 15 hours of free time and 540 euro, as he would be with D, which is 20 hours of free time but only 250 euro. He is literally indifferent between them. One has more time, the other has more money, but his overall satisfaction is exactly the same.
And you guessed it, the slope of these curves has a name too, the marginal rate of substitution, or MRS. Now here's the crucial difference. This isn't the trade-off he has to make. This is the one he's willing to make. It's all about his personal, subjective feelings about the value of his time versus his money.
So we have the two key pieces of our puzzle. We've got a map of what's possible, the feasible frontier, and we've got a map of what he wants, his indifference curves. Now for the magic. We're going to put them together to find that one single best choice.
But before we do, let's just lock this in. It boils down to this. MRS is the trade-off you're willing to make. That's all about your personal preferences. MRT is the trade-off you have to make. That's your objective reality. The sweet spot, the best choice, is where those two forces meet. And here it is. We've just laid his happiness map right on top of his reality map. And now the goal is crystal clear. Find the highest possible happiness curve that still just touches the line of what's possible. He'd love to be on that far-out curve, but it's in the impossible zone. And sure, he could pick a point on the lower curves, but why settle when he can do better?
Let's walk through the logic here. At a point like B, the curve is really steep. That means he's willing to give up a lot of time for just a little cash. But reality gives him 30 euros an hour, so of course he should work more. At point A, the curve is flat. He values his time so much, 30 euros an hour isn't worth it, so he should work less. It's all about finding that perfect equilibrium.
So here's the core takeaway. The optimal, happiness-maximizing choice is at that single point where the trade-off you're willing to make is exactly equal to the trade-off you have to make. It's where your personal preferences just kiss the edge of your real-world constraints.
And for Kareem, given his specific preferences and his 30 euros an hour wage, that magic number of hours to work each day is 7.
This all happens at point E on our graph. At this sweet spot, Kareem works 7 hours, which leaves him with 17 hours of free time and earns him 210 euros. This is the combination that puts him on the absolute highest happiness curve he can actually reach. This is his perfect balance.
So, okay, this has been a whole deep dive on a guy named Kareem. Why does this matter to you? Because this way of thinking, this whole framework, isn't just about working hours. It is a powerful way to think about pretty much any choice you make that involves a trade-off.
The formal name for what we've just done is constrained optimization. It sounds complicated, I know. But it's just a systematic way of thinking about how to get the most of what you want given the limitations you're working with. It's really just about balancing your desires against your reality.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We use this model for a work-life decision, but think about it for a second. What other big trade-offs do you face? Between studying and socializing? Or that constant push and pull between spending now versus saving for the future? This mental model gives you a whole new lens to find your own sweet spot in any choice you have to make.